This shrine stands beside a busy road. Cars pass without slowing down. Engines replace the sound of hooves. At night, red lanterns light the path. Not stone lanterns from the past, but modern ones, neatly aligned, guiding visitors through the darkness. At first glance, this place feels new, almost too new to carry a long story. But the ground beneath this shrine holds the memory of men who once had nothing left but the soil in their hands. This shrine was not born in an age of glory. It was born in an age of collapse. When the samurai class came to an end, many former retainers lost their status, their income, and their place in society. The new government did not offer them swords. It offered them land. They were sent to this vast plain, once known as Kogane Makino, a former pasture for the shogun's horses. The task was simple in words, but brutal in reality. Turn wilderness into farmland. Turn warriors into farmers. The land was opened in order. First came Hatsutomi, then Futawa, and finally this place, Misaki. The name means the third bloom. It was not just a number, it was a wish. After failure, after hunger, after despair, they believed that the third attempt would finally take root. Within the shrine grounds stands a smaller shrine, the Inari Shrine. For the settlers, this was not symbolic faith, it was practical prayer. The soil here drained too easily. Rice would not grow. Even drinking water was hard to find. Men who once trained with swords now held hoes. Their hands blistered, their pride cracked. They prayed not for victory, they prayed for crops, for water, for survival. Along the approach to the shrine, stone figures stand quietly. A Jizo statue, a monument to the pioneers. They do not tell heroic tales, they mark endurance. This shrine was built not as a symbol of conquest, but as a vow. We will live here. We will die here. This land will be our home. The story you are about to see is not a legend of victory. It is the memory of men who laid down their swords and chose to kneel in the soil instead. In the year following the fall of the Tokugawa shogunate, an entire class of warriors suddenly found themselves without purpose. They had once lived by the sword, serving lords and defending lands with unwavering loyalty. But with the dawn of the Meiji era, the age of the samurai was declared over. Some accepted change, some resisted, many were left behind. In what was once fertile grazing land known as Kogane Makino, a group of former retainers was ordered to settle and farm a harsh stretch of wilderness. They came not as conquerors, not as cultivators, but as men whose identities had been stripped away. They carried blades no longer useful and dreams no longer recognized by a new Japan. In frustration and desperation, they began to dig into the earth, not for glory, but for survival. This is their story. The story of men who buried their swords and learned to thrive on the soil they once feared. This is the legend known locally as Kogane Makino. Once, these hands carried a sword. It was not just a weapon, it was a way of life. But the age of the samurai ended, not with one final battle, but with silence. Orders disappeared, pay disappeared. Only pride remained, and pride could not feed a family. They were sent to this land, once known only for wild horses and endless grass. No villages, no wells, no shelter. The government called it a new beginning. To them, it felt like exile. They drove their tools into the ground, but the earth did not welcome them. The soil was hard, the water was far below. The wind cut through their thin clothes. A sword could end a man's life, but it could not bring water from the ground. One by one, they set their swords down, not because they had forgotten who they were, but because the blade had no place here. To live, they had to learn to bow to the soil. The earth did not care about rank. It only answered those who stayed. When their strength was nearly gone, they built a small shrine, not for victory, not for conquest, but to ask for the right to remain. They prayed, not as warriors, but as people who wished to live here tomorrow. The wild horses returned. Once these animals had been protected by the same warriors who now feared them. The past had come back, not as memory, but as destruction. This time they did not raise swords. They raised their voices. They raised fences. They protected life instead of taking it. The land did not change quickly, but it changed. Small shoots broke through the soil. White flowers spread across the field. It was not victory. It was not glory. It was proof that the land had finally accepted them. Years passed. Swords rusted. Fields remained. They were no longer samurai. They were no longer exiles. They had become people of this land. The soil they once feared had become the place they would leave behind. This shrine does not stand for heroes of war. It stands for those who survived by letting go of who they once were. The last samurai did not fall in battle. They learned to live in the dirt of a new world.
Today, the struggle is invisible. Traffic flows where fields once failed. Light shines where fire once burned. At night, the red lanterns glow softly, lighting a path that no longer leads to survival, but to remembrance. This shrine does not celebrate warriors. It remembers people. Men who chose to stop being samurai so that their children could become ordinary. If you stand here today, you will not hear their voices, but you stand on the soil they broke with their hands. This is not a shrine of heroes. It is a shrine of beginnings.